Soup.
Welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Beau Oliver, joined here today with Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, and we are back to review Season 3 of The Boys, episodes 1 through 3. Very excited to talk about this show. It's one of my favorite shows on television. I think Season 1 and 2 were so equal in terms of quality. It really only got better. And I think these first 3 episodes of Season 3 have me so excited to see where this season is going. I don't know, how did you feel about these first 3 episodes, Aaron?
No, I agree. It feels like we just jumped right back into the world where we left off on. And that's something I feel like is important for a show, especially going into a Season 3, a Season 4, is like to make it feel like it's still the same thing that you've been watching and enjoying and reaching that level of quality that you're used to. Because usually sometimes you see maybe this is where some shows start to teeter off a bit, but I think they came back super strong, and it took like every ounce of willpower for me not to watch just the rest of the season right when we got them, because I do enjoy the week to week with the show and with shows in general. But yeah, after these first 3 episodes, where it looks like it's headed, I am all on board for.
Yeah, before we get into the details of episode 1, I want to let you guys know that you can listen to this review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and all of our podcast platforms, and of course on YouTube, where most people do watch. But episode 1, it opens with that the movie clip, Dawn of the Seven, which I thought that whole bit, all the opening bits were so funny, talking about the Bork cut, release the Bork cut, all the hashtags out there, you know, when he's banging Ashley in the bathroom, and she's like, Tony Gilroy had to finish your movie, you're a shitty director. You know, the writers of the show are so tapped in pop culture, and the references always hit. And, you know, that first cameo, I don't know how they pulled that off, but she's been making the rounds with these cameos, Charlize Theron. And it's so funny because she looks like such an A-lister, and she made Homelander not look like an A-lister. There is really something to that, you know. The kids would say she ate him up. Her Stormfront was too bad.
Yeah.
No,
they really took liberties with the character. It's like, oh, you're a blonde now, even though like everybody knows Stormfront.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Literally, probably the biggest person in the news cycle right now is Stormfront. Like, what if we make her blonde?
Well, the fans were probably really upset with that. Volt's always changing the comics.
Hashtag not my Stormfront.
Not my Stormfront. But I thought that whole opening bit, like I said, it was so good. And my biggest takeaway from this first episode was how down bad Homelander is. Obviously, what happened at the end of Season 2, losing his kid, losing Stormfront, the love of his life, even though she's a white supremacist. But, you know, his whole demeanor in this first episode is like a wounded dog. And it's funny because that's how he describes Butcher later in the episode, but it applies to him as well. And characters are just they feel the freedom to disrespect him. Whereas in the first 2 seasons, it was just pure fear. They wouldn't even think about speaking back to him or challenging him. Obviously, some characters did, you know, because when push came to shove, you have to eventually fight back because the guy's such a fucking prick. But like I said, he was just pouting, and he pouts a lot in these first 3 episodes, but it's still great to watch. You know, he remains the most fascinating character on the show.
Oh yeah, and Anthony Starr slips back right back into this role. I think I mentioned on a recent pod, like, I think he might be the best at playing an individual character on any TV show right now. Second would probably be Carl Urban and as fucking Billy Butcher.
Yeah.
And they're both in the same show. And that scene later in this episode when they have that little sit down together, I think was one of the best scenes of the first 3 episodes so far, because both of those characters are just so fascinating and have been through so much and kind of reflect each other. It's funny because I feel like sometimes they do hit on these cliches, but they're self-aware of their cliches they're hitting on, but they do it differently, like we're not so different, me and you type deals. But
we talked about this with Obi-Wan, where there were a lot of storytelling cliches and tropes, but some of them don't really land. I think with The Boys is they always make it their own. And that's I said this many times in Game of Thrones reviews, because it often happened in Game of Thrones. When adversaries sit down and have polite conversation, that to me is my favorite. Homelander could rip him to pieces right there, but I think their first meeting still holds so much weight for Homelander. At the end of Season 1, when he finds Billy at, I always forget that woman's name, And he didn't sense any fear whatsoever from Billy, and he respected that. I think that was probably the first time in a long time that no one actually did fear him, besides, a character like Stan Edgar. Yeah, that relationship, like you said, it looks like they're setting up this inevitable confrontation that is not going to end well for anybody. Because this whole first episode, it's trying to show Huey is doing things the right way. He's working under Newman. Superhero damage is down 40%. They're locking up more soups than any other year, all the other years combined. But eventually he finds out, you can't really reform things from the inside.
No, and I kind of like that little... even the introductions in the season for where every character's at since last season, I enjoyed. Like, Huey and Starlight are, like, presented as them living, their peaceful, perfect life. And obviously, episode 1 in the show, that's not going to last too long. Because season 2 ended very much like a finale of sorts. It kind of felt like that in a lot of ways, because all these characters seem to be in good places. And obviously that's going to get shaken up now. But even with Butcher and Ryan, I think their relationship and him embracing him as kind of like a son and having a sort of relationship that he's never had before. And obviously the circumstances around everything, I thought was very emotional to see him kind of be in that situation with Ryan and, still trying to be Billy, but also trying to be the best father figure for Ryan. And with also kind of trying to navigate this new co-parenting style, removing himself from the boys and that life to help raise his daughter. And I thought those moments are all done very well. And it's kind of sad knowing that, that's just not going to sustain.
Yeah, no, it doesn't even last, I think, 3 episodes. By the middle of episode 3, it all just comes crashing down. And I think, you mentioned that season 2 felt like a series finale. They're revealing more of Stan Edgar's plans, like the scene where he's talking to the politician that they're pushing to run for president. They want this guy to basically be their puppet. Like I said, he reveals his plans that he wants to get out of the superhero business, transform Vought into a pharmaceutical military contractor type of company, and giving them this product that will allow people to have superpowers for 24 hours. Temp V is what they're calling it. And it's funny, it's almost like he's trying to eat his cake and have it too, because they made the mistake of propping up these heroes as idols and celebrities, and they're worshipped around the globe, so now they're kind of out of control. So he wants to maintain the power that he's built up through this company, but also eliminating the mascots. And I think that's going to be a difficult task. They've presented this character as sort of a mastermind, but they haven't given us too many of the cards that he has up his sleeve. But now we're starting to see them. And I thought over these 3 episodes, he dominated every scene he was in. And it's, Giancarlo Esposito has played these imposing, menacing characters before, but there's a bit more cheekiness to him this time around, where he is that moderate politician trying to hold everything together while also pulling some of the strings himself. So there's some moments of levity, like when he dismisses Homelander, or when he's talking to the senator and saying, these people are a bunch of crybabies. And I love the anti-superhero commentary there. I've always been, banging the drum for these types of shows where you're just taking the genre to task, and I think that this show does that so well.
Right, and it's not even, like, we've seen an uptick in the kind of evil Superman stories, and I think this is such a different perspective on any of that. It's not just Homelander is more powerful and more evil. He has that in the back of his mind and threatens to use it, but the way Edgar and the way their society is constructed, that being what holds him at bay, I think is very much more fascinating than the opposite of just an evil Superman power that just causes chaos wherever he goes. Like, Edgar is a character who has no superpowers, and we've seen it in the past, but is still able to hold Homelander in check. And I think it definitely helps having an actor like Giancarlo Esposito, even though he's not like, I wouldn't say the evil villain that he's portrayed in the past, where he's kind of more imposing. Here, he still has that presence, and his reputation definitely helps, but he's much more, I think, subtle in his kind of manipulations or in his actions. And a weaker actor, I feel like I could be like, well, there's no way that person like that can hold Homelander in check, but his presence alone, I think, makes it where, as a viewer, I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, I can't remember the character's name, but Elizabeth Shue had that presence as well in season 1. And, that's the most reined in we've seen Homelander. I think, now that he's had this PR disaster, he's not the same guy until the end of episode 2, where he gets right back into it. But he is becoming so much more unhinged. But Edgar, he's willing to play just as dirty as some of these characters. And I think that we're going to see moments like that moving forward where, like you said, he's not the typical mustache twirling villain, but he's going to do some villainous shit.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Without a doubt. Because like I said, he wants to make this play to turn Vought over into a pharmaceutical company. And Homelander, you know, not to get too political, but he represents a lot of things. And I think one of the main ones is this idea of American exceptionalism. Mm-hmm. And if you look at society today, I think that idea of American exceptionalism and superiority has become fractured, and I think he represents that so well with his fractured psyche, where he just he's so obsessed with being beloved, being the best, being superior, but there are so many different things happening to him that are showing him, no, you're not who you actually think you are. So it really is just a case of, you know, he doesn't know who he is. His identity is being pulled in so many different directions, and that's what he talks about with Butcher, you know, the give and the take to keep things the same. What is even my role in all of this? And I think he kind of decides what that is at the end of episode 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I find it so fascinating, because there's so many metaphors that you can apply to Homelander and Vought and the whole show, obviously.
I think with a character like him, definitely... It's hard to kind of make this argument because of what we've seen him do and who we know he used to be. But if you just look at, like, you know, celebrity culture in general, or the propping up of people to bring them down, to kind of bring them back up, and just the mental impact that must have. Obviously, when you do it to a psychopath, it has it has much more massive implications, because you're playing around with someone who can probably destroy cities. But like on a surface level, just all that psychological manipulation, and one minute you're on top of the world, the next you're not, and striving to be that, and meanwhile you have people all around you trying to replace you. Edgar putting Stormfront as co-captain, just all these
Starlight.
Oh, Starlight, yeah. That would be a pure nightmare for Vought.
You know what? We're doubling down.
Yeah. So like having this fractured mind and having all this other things to deal with, I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you know, I forgot to make this point, but once again, you brought up the fact that season 2 felt like a series finale, and I think that's because the fix was in with Newman. That's a play that Edgar had there. That's his connect in Congress. So for things, you know, things are feeling normal, everything is calming down a bit. But that's what Edgar wants. Mm-hmm. So this would have been Edgar's perfect endgame, right? To keep things as they are in this first episode. But, you know, eventually Huey finds out who Newman was. I loved seeing Huey in this first episode, the confidence of the character, seeing where he came from, people in the office being impressed with him, being jealous of him. That was cool to see. And like you said, the moment where he and Starlight are just happy together, right?
Yeah.
And even Newman, I thought Claudia Dumit was very good in season 2. And once again, her character is, you know, they're opening up some more layers. That she's just not a crusader. She's an actual human character who becomes friends with Huey. And I think their relationship was cute. Until it's not.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. She took his bagel.
That's probably the worst thing she did in these first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And doubting that Huey could get herpes.
Well, that opens up a whole other can of worms. But, yeah, I mean, Huey's position, like, Butcher having to go to Huey to take a mission, and even, like, Butcher, like, his newfound, I don't want to say morality, but, like, you know, it's not the same Butcher.
No, he's
not taking hands. He might rough you up a little, but then send you over to the proper channels.
Right, and he reveals in that scene with Mallory, and, you know, Karl Urban is having the time of his life with this character. So when he is allowed to be just Butcher off the leash, he's incredible. But those emotional moments, he's so great at, too. You know, he could play the fatherly figure in those moments with Ryan, or when he admits that he's now living for Ryan, essentially, trying to be a better man. And Mallory says that already makes you better than your father, the fact that you're at least trying. Yeah, like you mentioned, the same thing with MM, where he puts aside his superhero crusade to try and raise his daughter. But the dynamic between Butcher and Huey, how things have changed, you know, seeing, like you said, Butcher has to come to him for missions, saying, yeah, I'll get you those reports you wanted. I also thought that whole opening with Termite was incredible. The delivery of Frenchie saying, he's trying to get in my ass! Hilarious. Had me laughing for 5 minutes. The triumph of Kimiko pulling Termite out of Frenchie's ass. And also what happens before they even burst in the room, dude. That's one of the top 3 nastiest kills of the show.
I don't know if I would like that.
Being killed that way or having your dick tickled?
From the inside. I've been thinking about it. More of a reminds me of like a kidney stone. I don't know.
I don't know. He was enjoying the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, now, at first, I was like, yeah, I tried that. And then when he fucking sneezed, I was like, oh, God. You can't control yourself?
Too many things can go wrong. The whole time I'll be thinking.
Yeah, no, that's they didn't think that through. And that was nasty.
What
And also Butcher capturing him in the cocaine and fucking him up. Go on, son. Have a bump.
Well, yeah, that's 2 perspective shots of large penises in cinema this year. Shout out Jackass. You need more. Actually, no, did you see Jackass? When he dresses up as a dinosaur? It's pretty funny. Anyway.
Is it streaming? I want to watch it.
That's what I love so much about the show, because it is so self-aware of like the outside world, like the whole Ant-Man could just fly out Thanos' ass and expand type thing. Like they'll play off of that and make a joke. The whole Snyder Cut thing, they play off that and make a joke. And it's just that balance they're able to do so well, where it's just it might be like just the most fun show ever.
It is so fun, dude. It truly knows what it is. The tone is always so consistent, and I think the real world commentary, it fits so well in this universe, and I think it's because of a lot of the stand-ins that they have, like the Edgar character or the Newman character or Vought in general, with all their streaming services and VRA.
Right, and it's like at certain things, it's like even though I agree one way, I think some ways. Sometimes when commentary and film and media do it, it's like, all right, now you're just talking to me like I'm fucking stupid. Or be like, sometimes it's not handled well at all. Or even though they can make they could make something a metaphor for something in a real world, it just comes off very bad and in poor taste. Or just like so surface level that it's like, why would you, it's easy to see through and takes you out of whatever you're watching. Here it fits, and it really, like, everybody gets straight. I mean, there's problems all over the fucking place on both sides. So, and they're able to, I think, balance that out very well and show problems everywhere in society and relate it to this world in a way that I think is actually very, very well done.
Well, we're seeing it across a lot of blockbuster media. The idea that institutions can't be reformed from the inside, they need to be destroyed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, obviously, Marvel, people compare it to, people accuse it of being military propaganda, and they have their issues with it. But I don't think they get enough credit for incorporating that idea in some of their stories. And I think Star Wars has done it. Attack on Titan is also doing it. And I think that's where this show is leading as well, because Huey has this idea in his head that things are good. We're making these reforms, but the whole time the fix has been in. Mm-hmm. So by episode 3, he comes around totally to Butcher's way of doing things. And you feel bad for that character, because for a long time, what did they used to call him? They called him his canary, mm-hmm. right? He was the one that would let Butcher know if he was going too far. Now he's the only one who agrees with him. It's Frenchie and Kimiko saying, this guy's crazy, we need to get out of here. Mother's Milk is obviously always going back and forth, but Huey's the one by his side. In episode 2, it was Butcher who's finally coming around to, maybe things are getting normal.
Yeah.
And then he breaks them the bad news. But, staying on episode 1, the idea of making Starlight co-captain, once again, Stan Edgar is so dismissive of Homelander. I don't even know why he called him for that meeting. It was just to basically tell him that Starlight was going to be co-captain and then say, shoo. And even when the door closes and Starlight says, he can still hear you, Stan Edgar's like, I don't give a fuck. Starlight, who has been on the side of the boys for the first 2 seasons, takes this opportunity thinking that she's going to be handed real power. But once again, she should have listened to Huey. She's just a mascot. Vought is the one truly pulling the strings, always. And also, this idea that Homelander wouldn't fight back. She didn't anticipate that, this guy's still got some ammunition in the barrel here. He's not going to go down without a fight. But at first, you could see why it was enticing. I think she's a character where they emphasize this in these first 3 episodes. She's been controlled her whole life. If it's her mother, religion, now Vought, it feels like she doesn't have any agency in her life. And here's that first opportunity, really probably in her whole life. So you could see why it is enticing and why it's an attractive offer.
And also with Maeve, after seeing what Homelander was pulling A-Train for drinking Shake Shack.
Shake Shack?
Yeah.
I love A-Train. That actor is so good.
I know.
He's just such an adorable dope.
But, she tells Butcher about the weapon that I think killed, or allegedly killed Soldier Boy.
Well, even going to that moment with A-Train, when he says, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
And Homelander is livid, because no one would even think to say that. And he's got the super hearing, so he manages to catch it. You know what? It would have been fascinating if A-Train doubled down there. I was wondering in the moment if he would double down and be like, what are you going to do about it? And if Homelander would have backed off. But maybe he just would have split his skull. But like you said, Maeve sees that, and she's revealed as Butcher's source. Mm-hmm. Maeve is a character who, I like Maeve as a character. I always feel like I want more from her.
Yeah, she's very much been on the sidelines.
Right?
She's had,
she's just
moments
there.
That push the story forward, but there's nothing really more to her character.
Right, they got into her relationship and stuff like that.
Did you see...
Calls Huey a twink.
Did you see what... like the Twitter account for like Pride Month, you know, like how they make fun of like companies that always like, oh, for 1 month we'll act like we care and then go back to business as usual. They had like the bot Twitter account did like a whole Pride thing with Maeve.
With Maeve, right? Oh yeah, I forgot that was public knowledge now. Well, they're despicable. They switch on a dime. It's all about public perception, man. There's such a great stand-in for some of these corporations we deal with in real life. But the satire, the parody, man, it's still so sharp. I think out of all the comedies that have come out in the last few years, none of them makes me laugh by myself quite like this show. I constantly find myself cracking up by myself.
It's little things too. I think in episode 2, just like the visual humor, like you said, when they're at the Vought Fair, and I just saw LGBT turkey legs, and I fucking lost it. Although as a Disney adult, I don't appreciate the strays.
Yeah, but in that moment with Maeve and Butcher, like you said, she gives him the information about what happened to Soldier Boy, possibly a weapon that could kill him, and we're going to get into that in the future episodes. But I also wanted to touch on obviously the final scene of the episode where Huey realizes that Newman is a soup. She's obviously been approached by this individual Tony, who's a character from her past, and I thought that action scene, once again, was really well done. The choreography is never so stylized, but once again, they're trying to show how these people would fight if they weren't trained and they had superpowers. Mm-hmm. So it's just always so sloppy and gruesome, and it's just how quickly and how badly do you want to kill someone? And then Huey, once again, gets covered in blood. Oh, wrong place, wrong time, all the time. For that character.
They're just doing that now. It's just a bit. Just wherever he goes, he's just going to get massively
they just covered with him
with blood. But yeah, that was I mean, her power is just being able to... I don't even know what she does. Just explode people. It's fucking gruesome, man.
Yeah, with her eye.
Yeah.
I think the eye effect looks cool. She popped off the finger, popped off a jaw. She's just letting them fucking fly, bro. That's a dangerous fucking character to have just lurking around, you know?
Yeah.
And there was the other head popper from season 2 that escaped that facility. Mm-hmm. So we have to keep an eye on for that. You know, if heads start popping off, and I don't know why I said that with a Boston accent. If heads start popping off and Newman's not in the picture, could be her. And, you know, also we have that scene with Homelander and Butcher. It was a great sit down between the two characters where Butcher's been contemplating whether or not he's going to take the Temp V. But that's why it looks like there's no other way to end this but just an absolute showdown between those two characters that ends with everything crashing down. And like Homelander said, one of them standing. And everyone wants to see that, right?
Yeah.
Probably not the town where it's going to happen in.
No.
I think that's how this show is going to end. I think there's going to be such a massive calamity of superhero destruction where they'll never be able to get the public back on their side. Total destruction. All right, now before we get to episode 2, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, one of our sponsors, Smile Brilliant. Anyone who suffers from grinding in their sleep will tell you just how uncomfortable and painful it can be, myself included. But after using one of Smile Brilliant's custom-fitted night guards, you'll be able to sleep comfortably through the night without worrying about the potential damage of grinding in your sleep. Preventing the damage to your teeth is much easier and less expensive than seeking a cure, and if you're one of the 40 million Americans damaging their teeth because of night grinding, head on over to smilebrilliant.com and use our promo code NERDSOUP at checkout for 20% off all products. And while you're there, you can check out the other products they offer to promote dental health and safety. And remember, use our promo code NERDSOUP for 20% off all purchases. You can find the link to their website in our description box below, so don't wait, hit the link, and take care of your teeth.
You know what sucks in this universe? Like Charlize Theron, probably, I'm assuming she's her in this world, and she's just a big-time A-list actor. They got her for this role. And Billy Zane, much like now, he's stuck on.
Yeah, he's got to do the deep movies.
Yeah, on network television.
That shit was so funny, man. But I think it does work well because he's just kind of a dumber version of Homelander, where they're suffering from a lot of the same things, where they are narcissists. You can even argue that he's a bit of a psychopath as well. They're just child celebrities who never grew up. So his character, to me, it is funny now to laugh at him. Whereas in season 1, what he did to Starlight just turned me off completely from anything that had to do with that character. But now, like I said, it is funnier to kind of laugh at him. And I think it's similar with A-Train, even though A-Train shows a bit more of his human side when he's sitting down with his brother. And I think that's important, that A-Train has a bit of a support system, whereas the Deep really doesn't have anybody but his sycophant wife.
Yeah, and like just like you said, like the way they manipulate the propaganda they promote to basically shield these people, it just goes to show that like no matter what or who you are in this world, that like you can get propped back up, and that's probably a very throughout these next 2 episodes. I think it's like, I don't know if it's, obviously it's different circumstances because they're superheroes and all that, but like just the inner workings of what it takes to kind of manipulate basically demographics to support somebody after an event or like quote unquote being canceled, and just like all the work that probably goes into redeeming someone's image in the public eye, and which none of it is probably accurate.
Right. And then as soon as the public kind of forgets about what somebody did and you're able to sell the whole redemption angle, it's so easy to get people back in the spotlight. And obviously it's a play for Homelander where he wants to bring the Deep back into the Seven. But also, it was funny when they have that conversation about the Deep getting the slot before Homelander, and Homelander is so pissed, and you're wondering if he's going to hurt him, kill him. You never know with this guy. But he just takes it, and he realizes, now the Deep is more popular than me at this point. What the hell? I guess that's what you get for dating a Nazi.
Yeah.
Also, the scenes with Butcher where he's having those nightmares about taking the Temp V, and for Butcher, he hates superheroes so much. So the idea, I think, of him becoming one is something that truly does disgust him, and I think he fears that. If he fears anything, I think that would be it, becoming the thing that he truly hates and despises. So he has that nightmare sequence where Homelander is just in his head, and Huey's the one, once again, being his canary, telling him to calm down a bit. That's why it's heartbreaking for Butcher in this episode, because he looks like he's ready to be that father figure with Ryan. When he watches the video, that's really the one that
was sad.
Yeah, that was sad. And I think the character of Ryan has been better in this season. I don't think he was bad in season 2, but the actor is all right. He's a good child actor.
Yeah, that always definitely helps.
And I've been convinced by their relationship. This kid, once again, like Homelander, he's just looking for something. Can I have some semblance of normalcy, some family? Because he's lost so much.
Even when Homelander visits Stormfront in episode 1 and she's jerking him off and starts like going on about like how he's like the leader of the master race or whatever, some Nazi bullshit, and he's just like, what? No. I find that so funny. Even in the last season, when he kind of like he's so in love with Stormfront that she starts bringing up like the Nazi stuff. He's like, all right, we'll do that.
His facial expressions. But I think that does speak to the way authoritarians are willing to fan the flames of hatred, of bigotry, even if they don't necessarily believe in it themselves. And I think that's worse. It shows a willingness to just be so cruel and insensitive to the social fabrics and light it all on fire so that you can maintain your position of power. So I do think maybe there is a point where, I don't know if that will come back up, the Aryan superhero army. You have to imagine if they keep talking about it, that eventually we're going to see that. But Homelander, it sounds like he can do pretty well on his own. So he, that's his argument. I am the superior race. It's just me. Because I'm Superman. But I thought their meeting in this one too, where he's like, hey, you know whose birthday it is? And she can barely speak, which, great, fuck her. She's in so much pain. But even the little walk up he does with his hands, he's like, hey there, sleepyhead. He's such a fucking dick. Or even when he tells A-Train, milkshake, yummers. Like, you just want to fucking slap this guy.
He is...
But you can't.
No.
Break your hand.
He plays every part he needs to so well. When he's just seething underneath it all and he's trying to contain it, but you could tell that he's not. It's just so well played. You could see it in his eyes, and it's just...
He
really is
too.
Just so good at playing this type of character. And even in these moments when he's trying to be like a little playful and happy, he just doesn't... Something just doesn't fit, because obviously we know just how stunted this character is, but little subtleties with the performance are just all like, they're just so good. And that's why I think he's like the best actor playing an individual character.
And we see that old Homelander come out once again in the scene with Starlight where he's trying to convince her to sing happy birthday to him like Marilyn Monroe did to JFK. And who's there to save the day? Stan Edgar. I also wanted to point out Erin Moriarty has really grown on me just as a performer. There's so much confidence now with not only the way she plays the character, but the way she walks and talks. It seems like she feels really comfortable in this role as an actor. And like I said, the arc of the character has been really interesting to watch as well. But Stan Edgar has been her bodyguard of sorts in these first 2 episodes. And I thought the writing there was just so crisp. The final line just kills Homelander. It's your party, you can cry if you want to. And he realizes how he looks in that moment, where he shows some embarrassment there and shame. Yeah, I've truly fallen off.
That's like the perfect, that's why I love this depiction of, again, evil Superman, because, usually it's, he has, an adversary, right? Oh, who's Injustice? Oh, well, Batman doesn't want to, obviously you have that with Butcher, but, it's on a different level. Here, he's being contained by fucking corporations and politics. Yeah. And I think
that's why people say Luthor's always the best Superman villain.
I think it makes sense. And, it just... Yeah, in that scene too, I'm so glad that she didn't sing. Not because, obviously because I don't want that to happen for the Starlight character, but I think every time a series has tried to do something similar like that, it's been the cringiest shit I've ever seen in my life. AKA Skylar White.
Well, yeah.
Or any time a character breaks out in song.
Even the fucking original.
Yeah.
The Maryland one is hard to watch.
It's kind of hot, though. You know what they just did before that.
Yeah, we know.
And after.
The kids don't know, but we know. And after, yeah. And I think Robert got involved too.
Or anytime a character just sings. But here the cringiness is kind of funny too. Even when they're doing the whole the American Idol for who's gonna join the 7 with with supersonic singing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That actually comes off as very funny.
Well, what did you think about I guess we'll just kind of stick with Homelander because we can go to his next scene and then the final scene of the episode when he's doing the annual Make-A-Wish type of thing where he's going to stop the woman from jumping off of the roof. Bad timing for that young woman because Stormfront kills herself and Homelander feels betrayed. That was kind of, like I said, the last semblance of family that he had. As bad as she is, the cracks are starting to really form and you're going to get that moment, like I said, at the end of the episode where it completely reveals his true self. But like I said, that scene was hard to watch because it's not Homelander, it's him talking her into doing this.
Yeah.
And that's even more fucked up than pushing her or throwing her off.
No, I think when he has those smaller moments, even though it's a very contained situation, and it's just one person, obviously, it doesn't make any big difference, but I always feel those moments to be more skin crawling than the bigger picture moments, or when he's actually just outright being a dick to multiple people or causing trouble. Because this was just such a...
Yeah, being alone on a roof with that guy.
But and it's just he shows up, doesn't really give a shit what she's going to do or not.
Right, yeah.
But then seeing that happen to Stormfront and then just, going full, just fucking do it. Don't, I feel like that's almost more evil than... having a complete narcissism and over feeling that you're more important than everybody else. Because that's just straight up unnecessarily mean, pure evil. Just fucking jump.
Right, and she sees him having this breakdown and realizes, oh man, there are people in this world that have it worse than me. This guy's supposed to be the #1 hero in the world and he fucking hates himself. Maybe I can give this thing another chance. It's kind of like Elon Musk with $200 billion reminding the world every day that he fucking hates himself. It makes me feel better.
But even that, him, just the whole thing that gets him there too, just finally realizing or convincing himself that he is just a god.
Yeah, and it culminates in that speech at the end of the episode when they are doing the birthday celebration and the guy in the stand goes, Homelander, your Nazi died. Ashley's like, did he just say his Nazi died? And Starlight gives the PR speech. Mm-hmm. We've all made mistakes. Homelander's going to donate $10 million to my chat.
I started fucking laughing, dude.
And that's where you get the real life commentary there. Battling cancel culture. They want to take me down because I am the best. They want to control me and all this other shit that people are constantly saying when they do horrible things and the public calls them out. Mm-hmm. Homelander should feel grateful, like Edgar says, that they're even putting up with him. But that speech, yeah, he gets his base back and then he's ready to go. Yeah, but I thought that speech was so well written. Once again, the final line, the only man man in the sky is me. And then obviously this speech does continue in episode 3, but that moment to me, you're always waiting for those moments when he is going to pull down the curtain and just show everybody who he actually is.
But yeah, it's just like that, I don't know, him getting like a popularity boost and people embracing who he is. I mean, he was already an egomaniac before then, but now not being somebody constructed for him and receiving love, but actually being who he wants to be and receiving love just opens up, I don't even know how many doors.
And that message does, I think it appeals to people's worst instincts. And I think when you tell people you can be the worst version of yourself, people latch onto that. Like I said, the writing in that moment, the directing, the way he's addressing the audience, everyone is just on their fucking toes. Even A-Train, as soon as Homelander starts, he comes from backstage, like, oh, I gotta see this. All eyes are always on what Homelander is going to do. And Starlight in this episode, once again, dealing with Homelander, but now also investigating the Newman character with Huey.
Yeah, I thought that was actually, I don't know, like, I obviously we knew of Newman before the season, but kind of unraveling everything. And obviously the twist where, like, she is basically adopted by Edgar. And knowing now that what happened last episode made sense when they kind of had that plea, not a plea deal, but they bargained for Termite to be let go in exchange for a couple B-listers. And, taking that as a kind of win, because overall, like, you are limiting unintended casualties of soups. So, like, that's the bigger picture. She pitches to Huey that way, and, they kind of move on with their day. But now we know it's planned with Edgar and between Nadia and Edgar. And that's something that just adds a different layer to what Edgar wants to do or what his ultimate goal is. Even with Nadia, I feel like, Newman, Nadia, whatever, I guess we'll go Newman, right? It's just easier.
Yeah.
But even with Newman, I still don't get the sense that she's like a evil character.
No,
but I think it's definitely a manipulation from Edgar, I think, especially adopting her at that age where nobody probably wanted her. She's feeling alone, finally getting a parental figure to take her in and take care of her and also to do his dirty work for him.
Yeah, and that scene that they have together, I don't know if it's Ep 2 or Ep 3, but it feels genuine, like they are a true father and daughter. Although she did look very old when he adopted her. I don't know why he was reading her bedtime stories. But there was an emphasis on that in these first 3 episodes. These adopted families, Ryan and Butcher, obviously MM, that is his real daughter, but also Kimiko talking about, I lost my childhood. I don't have any more family. Same thing with Ryan. And I think Newman fits into that category. So when you have somebody step up and is willing to raise you and accept you for who you are, you're going to remain loyal to that person. And I think the corner of the universe, which was really interesting, that we got to look at the orphanage where they talk about all these super powered kids. They murdered their families and they have nowhere else to go. And even little details like the woman who runs the orphanage has a broken leg. That really adds to the realism of this world. That's something I didn't expect to see, for them to get into this idea that these powers for some people are impossible to control and that there's really not people out there looking, there's no My Hero Academia. But they touch on that in My Hero Academia as well. So yeah, that was, like I said, it was an interesting corner that I didn't think that they would highlight in this show. And it was also very funny, when Huey's talking to the woman trying to bullshit. The line when she says, I recommend Southeast Asian. They're in right now. Yeah. She's trying to direct him on the computer. Southeast Asian, right there.
Even when that little kid just shows up in front of him, I would have been out of there.
Spooky. Yeah. Spooky as fuck. Even the line so casually, superpowered mother that decreases the rate of parental fatality. That's great to know.
So it's like, it's just how it's presented. You see Spider-Man crawling up a wall and you're like, oh, good for him. Or even Jack. It's like, oh, look at the cute little baby. But that kid was fucking frightening.
Yeah, I like that these powers can be nasty.
Yeah.
Some of them just aren't built to be heroes. And that's something that they touch on in My Hero as well, that certain powers lend to the perception of being a villain. And other powers are more heroic. So that's interesting. But yeah, they find out that information about Newman, and that's, Huey and Butcher have that phone call, and Butcher's so ready to give it up. Just be the father that Ryan doesn't have. No more killing. And then Huey's like, nah, we fucked up, bro. I fucked up, and you're never gonna let me live this down.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that was a good moment. Like, Butcher being like, Huey's right, but Huey would be like, no, actually, I'm wrong.
Right, the one time Butcher calls him first, communicates well, and Huey tells him, sorry about that, buddy.
But even like MM too, like we see his, we find out his past with Soldier Boy and kind of how, he still has this hidden room full of newspaper clippings, and he's still very much in the game as much as he tries to remove himself from it. But this is something that sticks with him. So I thought that was kind of like heartbreaking too, when he's talking to his ex-wife and kind of explaining why he has to leave and leave his family again.
Yeah, and he rages in front of his daughter.
Yeah.
Obviously something that you never want to do in front of your kid. It's just the itch that he can't scratch. And it's the same illness that his father had. He talks about his father wasn't there for him. And I think the trajectory of this character has been fascinating, because in season 1, he's one of the boys, and he's cool because Laz Alonso's a good actor. And I think the character, he's just got a cool vibe to him. And in season 2, they get more into his past with his father and how his father was the one that kind of led him into this crusade. But now, yeah, it's so personal with this soldier boy character who was the original Homelander. And you see all those headlines on the articles that he kept, that he truly was the first Homelander. He was a despicable human being. Just constant allegations of abuse, of racial discrimination, and obviously it looks like Vought was protecting him for a time. But yeah, like I said, they make that a very personal revenge story for MM, something that he just can't let up.
Right.
So I think, the scene with his wife, we've seen it a million times, where the wife for so long doesn't want the husband to be a certain way, and then eventually she gives him the go-ahead. So he's ready to run it back with the boys. And like I said, Laz Alonso, I think, is really great as that character.
It's probably...
There are no bad characters in this show.
No, and I think every they're casted very well as well. But even, like, we talked about how, they'll shit on anybody, or they'll have commentary on everything. And I think that was, like, perfectly displayed, even in this one episode when they had the Vaughtland and the NRA or VRA type. That kind of like just...
Both were so fucking funny. Yeah, and both in the same episode.
I was Frenchie and Kimiko were there to find Crimson Countess.
Yeah.
Who like dated Soldier Boy.
Chimps Don't Cry had me dead, bro.
Yeah. But even like the stands and everything was so fucking funny.
Frenchie is disgusted by all the food.
I think the donut on the burger, he's got to try it.
Well, he's French, they're very pretentious.
But I thought like the most heartbreaking thing to come from like that sequence was definitely when Kimiko sees the children and basically their innocence is gone. And obviously that's happened with her and a number of characters in this show. And
for a time there, I was watching Kimiko and thinking, man, she is childlike, but it is because she lost her childhood. So when she's in those environments, there's more of a wonder and a curiosity to things, where Frenchie doesn't quite understand it, where he says, we can go to Six Flags, we can go ride some roller coasters. She's like, no, it's not really about that. It's that lost innocence, that freedom of being a kid where you don't have to worry about what's going to happen the next day. And like you said, she believes that she's probably scarred those children for life. But it isn't her fault, because these fucking scumbag superheroes that Vought has been propping up for so long, then they toss them to the side. They're willing to do anything. They'll play as dirty as it gets. You see it with the sharpshooter from Payback that Butcher goes to investigate. He's ready to kill Butcher, and Butcher can't keep up with him.
Well, yeah, and even like to a lesser extent, A-Train just like showing his need to, see with the deep Homelander, the need to kind of turn things around, because literally we see with every other superhero that's not in the 7 or doesn't have any hype around them, they're lost.
Yeah, life is tough.
And so, like, A-Train desperately wants to hold on to what he has now, and, he tries to rebrand himself and the video game and all that. That was... The way they're all just looking at him, and he thinks like he's pitching gold right now.
I'm trying to think of what he says, bro. It was so funny. His facial expressions in that scene, he was so proud of himself for thinking out these ideas. And he's there with the other guy who works in their PR analytic department, and he's like, this guy is just totally ridiculous.
But I thought too, like a great scene with his brother that kind of, shows him the real, like what it's really like for not only his family, but like what it is to be an ambassador or outspoken against certain issues. It's like, well, sure, you can go with your idea, but like this is the problems that are in our community right now, and like those are the things you should be.
You see it time and time again with celebrities that are not willing to make a stance because they just want everyone to love them. Across the spectrum of celebrity, where so many of them are afraid to be politically outspoken, even though people, are constantly accusing of Hollywood of being liberal and trying to promote these agendas, a lot of them don't. A lot of them do want to play it straight down the middle because it's all about how much can I monetize my brand and my image. And, A-Train can't run anymore, so he needs to think of something else. And the guy calls him out on his bullshit. You've never cared about this now, so now that it's sort of popular, and that's why they do such a good job of mirroring the real world politics, because over the last several years, corporations have taken all these stances, and we're going to do this and this and that, and then it kind of just disappears. Mm-hmm. Or once, Pride Month comes around, like, they did the bit with Maeve, it becomes, we're allies until July 1st. So all that stuff has always been really well done, and it's very thought-provoking as well.
Funny, old June is propping it up, then once July comes, let's celebrate the history of America.
It's so funny, yeah. That is kind of hilarious.
When he comes out on stage in the new suit, and their reaction is just... It's just so funny. Like, you think, like, maybe they got through to him. But
no. He just, he's still rocking that suit at the end. And Homelander still calls him fat.
Yeah. Mean. That's the meanest thing Homelander's done this season.
That dude is such a prick. And you mentioned the NRA stand-in, the convention there, where they find out that he goes through the metal detector, he's got a gun on him. They're like, oh, nice piece. And the character's name is Gunpowder, and he's given this speech, the talking points that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. And he's just trying to get some more information out of him as to what happened with Soulja Boy. And that's a conspiracy that, to me, it's, I don't know if it's a weapon. I don't know if there's some sort of plan. I don't know if Soulja Boy is kind of a traitor and he left the West for the East. The first exchange had me scared for Butcher. I didn't think he was going to die, but it's like, when it comes to these superheroes, there's only so much you can do by yourself.
Yeah.
So once he gets that call from Huey and he realizes that Newman's the head popper, he doesn't hesitate to take the Compound V, and we see superpowered Billy Butcher. And I thought that was awesome. Could have been really dumb, it could have been really cheesy, but just giving him the standard bulletproof, super strength, laser eyes, poor Gunpowder. Didn't know what hit him.
Especially like the effects of it next episode I really like too. Like with that decision to take it as a whole. But yeah, that was even the first one when he's deflecting the bullets and everything and able to graze him and everything. He was getting like pretty pieced up, and for him to come back and just
he's like Revolver Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid, ricocheting bullets and shit.
And I think like the call from Huey being the catalyst and kind of getting that support back to be like, all right, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna fucking do it, whatever it takes.
Yeah, and he punches that information out of him, and Gunpowder willingly gives it up. Says, there was a bit of hazing that went on between me and Soulja Boy, but that's really it. And they were in Nicaragua with the CIA, and he tells him the case officer was Grace Mallory. Mm-hmm. So obviously Butcher has a relationship with her. That character is just shady as fuck, huh?
Grace?
To the very core. She's done so much fucked up shit. But Butcher at the end says, I can't leave you as you are because you're still a soup. Mm-hmm. And that hatred of his comes out in such a brutal way where he's just wailing on him. They're not pulling back whatsoever. And then the eyes come out. And I think that was awesome. The way his rage just consumes him and the power comes out. And you see in episode 3 that he's having trouble with it, where it's really having this negative effect on his body. But the visual of him splitting that guy's skull and then the car splitting in half was so cool.
Yeah.
And it just really brings those fights home, man. All right, now before we get to episode 3, I want to give a shout out to our second sponsor for this video, and that would be Storyblocks. Right now, you can click the link in our description box below. And this is a good opportunity for anyone who's interested in content creation, whether you're making videos on YouTube or if you're making videos for your small business. Storyblocks is dedicated to making it easier for independent creators to bring their stories to life without sacrificing the quality of your video due to time, budget, or resources. This is what makes Storyblocks so great. With one of their affordable subscriptions, you will receive unlimited downloads for all of the content in the Storyblocks library. They have stuff like templates for softwares like After Effects, or things that you can use in all the major Adobe products, stock images, graphic designs, background footage. They also have royalty-free music, so you can give your video some cinematic flair, or if you want something to serve as background music while you're narrating. The options in their library feel like they're unlimited. They have a very easy search bar bar that you can just type in specifically what you're looking for, and they give you dozens and dozens of options. And the Storyblocks library is royalty free, so all of the things that you download when you're a member of Storyblocks are yours to use as many times as you like. So consider signing up to Storyblocks with one of their affordable subscriptions by clicking the link in our description box below. So going into episode 3, the cold opening for this episode features a young Starlight at a beauty pageant performing Hit Me Baby One More Time. And obviously the opening scene and the ending scene for this episode feature her holding her fists behind her back. And I think that, represents the control that other people have had over her for her entire life. And this is something we spoke about, obviously, earlier in the video. And once again, her decision to become co-captain, Huey's the one who tried to talk her out of it. We haven't touched on also her relationship with Supersonic in this season so far, where she's trying to basically tell him, she's giving him the truth that no one ever gave to her, that this is all rigged, that these people are horrible. You're not going to want to have anything to do with this. And you can see why. That what she goes through, I think, in this episode, having to confront the Deep once again, having to battle Homelander, where he's willing, he's had this uptick in popularity, so he's feeling even more confident to do these terrible things to her. She goes through a lot, and it looks like it's only going to get worse for her moving forward. But yeah, the highlight on that aspect of her character in this episode, I thought was well done. And
even like Supersonic, I think it was a funny bit, obviously, how they used to date, then it didn't go, and Huey was super jealous when they, that whole like dynamic. But
people love a love triangle.
Yeah, and I don't think he's been like.
No, he turned out to be a good guy.
Yeah, like he hasn't been disrespectful to start. Like a couple like reminiscing and everything like that, but he never like was like, just fuck Huey, we should be together. I think he genuinely just wants to like help her, but it's also a situation where like Starlight, he doesn't know the full gravity of what's happening. He got a little snippet from Homelander. When Starlight says it's dangerous, I don't think he knows that it's fucking dangerous. Just because you can curl all those weights that they show in the snippet doesn't mean Homelander can't take your eyes out with his laser.
Yeah, and it's not only the physical power of these people, but it's the mental power that you need to have to be able to withstand everything that they're going to put you through. He is the male equivalent here of Starlight in season 1, where he comes from a sheltered background, obviously grew up in the same religious cult that Starlight did, and obviously they had their relationship together. So I think it is probably hard for him to believe the things that she is saying, and I think there's also an aspect of he wants to protect her if he feels that she's truly in danger. So yeah, he did turn out to just be a good guy, but good guys in this universe never last that long, or they get put through the ringer. Look what happened to Huey, right? So I wonder how. I feel like that guy is just being primed. He's like a rotisserie pig, where he's just going to be cooked in front of Starlight. It's going to be Homelander's, and it's going to be from Homelander's hand. It's going to be by Homelander's hand.
I was at a street fair and I saw like a rotisserie pig, and I was like, Ian, don't show me that. Keep it in the back.
We did that once at one of our barbecues.
Even when they're discussing who should be in the 7, and they're like just going over all these characters, and when you realize, like, obviously can be more exaggerated, but like how probably a lot of companies have the same conversations.
That's exactly how they do that.
Yeah.
The focus groups.
It's fucking gross.
The way they delivered that too. She's body positive, not too body positive.
Yeah.
Still fuckable. Starlight's line is like, okay, well, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit is so funny, dude. And once again, where she thinks that she has final say on who's going to join the team, she doesn't.
Yeah.
She tells Supersonic not to join. He ends up joining, and then, they have that moment where Homelander brings out the fucking Deep.
Yeah, even to the end a little. It's like this company would rather, and I think others would rather, like, have a redemption story for someone, a dude who's done terrible things before propping up someone who might not do as good as well with their audience, or someone who deserves the job, or who actually is capable. Which another comment, like, just the commentary is pretty spot on when it comes to a lot of the things they touch upon here.
Hire the best person for the job. Isn't that what people always say?
The Deep?
The best person for the job.
No, that's going on in the forums, the Vought forums.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The Deep, he's experienced, you talks to fish. Speaking of which, Jesus fucking Christ. He's like, obviously he's like...
Which one, the sex scene or the dinner scene?
Both.
Okay. So yeah, put all your arms around me. All my arms?
It's shit like that like...
Well, that's almost what makes you... That's the one thing about the Deep that you sympathize.
He's a child.
He's a child, and he's got these fish friends.
Yeah.
And he truly does care about them. Once again, who's your family? What's your support system? For the Deep, it's any aquatic critter he comes across.
His wife's manipulating the shit out of him. That's something where, like, obviously, the Deep's not, like, a favorite character that I'm rooting for, but, like, being forced to eat your friend is, like, kind of fucked up.
No, it truly, yeah. It was horrifying to watch.
Yeah.
That's part of the genius of the show is they make you care about this little squid named Timothy.
That's like the Homelander coming right here and giving you your dog and being like, eat your fucking dog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it elicits that sort of disturbing feeling inside of you. And Homelander, once again, he's bringing on the Deep. The Deep thinks that he's doing him a favor, but he realizes... Homelander's as worse as ever, and that he's still this bully. And I think that's what Starlight says, that he's becoming more and more unhinged.
He's up 21% since his speech.
Right, he's up 21%. But even talking about, I've been reading a lot about Dr. King lately. It's funny, obviously, but you believe that he truly believes that he thinks... You hear people say this shit all the time when people... I mean, he's the main guy that people pass off quotes when they want to justify some terrible thing they believe in. It's always MLK. The things that he is doing, obviously he's done horrible things like taking down the plane and taking down 2 planes, actually. Well, maybe these things aren't so horrible, but he's just more of a bully now. The things that he's doing to these characters, it reminds me of Joffrey Baratheon. You know, when Cersei couldn't control him and he was just torturing everybody around him. So when, Huey says to Starlight, you need to kind of just stick it out. For her, this is probably the most dangerous position she's been in since the show started.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because
now you're stuck with Homelander.
Well, even when she tries to blackmail him and kind of like a last-ditch effort, it's like, well, remember this tape I had? He's like, okay.
Bro, he gave her a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
He's like, let me walk you through this.
Yeah.
Critical infrastructure, White House, wipe out New York. Where are you from? Wipe out that too. That's terrifying. And you're waiting for that, for him to call their bluff, right? If you put out that video, I love the line he says, if I have nothing to lose, then I'll lose everything, but then I'll have nothing to lose. So once again, he prefers being loved, as he says, but fear is all right by him. There is that fine line between love and fear that he is willing to walk, as we saw by the end of episode 2 and now his actions in episode 3.
It's so funny thinking back to what I thought of Homelander when my first instant reaction to him was just like, he was like just some robot.
Yeah.
Like just being
that first episode, right?
Molded to be like just the perfect superhero, and just like kind of realizing pretty quickly that he is just a complete unhinged maniac.
Yeah, no, I thought my first impression as well was dumb puppet, empty puppet, kind of a dumb blonde
like the
that they're able to...
congressman from Parks and Rec.
Right, yeah, something like that. But yeah, the evil people are the ones who are the people telling him to do these things and pulling his strings. Where it is a little bit of that too, but yeah, he's got so much personality to him. That crunch when the Deep has to eat Timothy, so nasty.
Yeah, It's like that kind of shit, I think, just really brings him out more than his threats and what he can do.
And it was nice to see the boys back together, right?
Yeah,
boys are back in town.
That's what they do.
Yep. MM cleaning shit, saying, we're in the Flatiron building, gotta respect it. Kamiko carving shit into the desks. Butcher getting his licks in on Huey, saying you were a dumbass for following Newman. All the good stuff, the gang is back together, the chemistry is still there. But like I said, Huey he's ready to get down and dirty here, where he's fully on board with Butcher's ways. And I wonder now, without Butcher having somebody to hold him back, if that's to the detriment of what they're trying to do.
Well, like you said, like just having them all back on the same page, I think is all these characters had their perfect lives these first 2 episodes. Right. Well, maybe not even half an episode, but it was also like our first look at them is like they were in great places. Now
better places, yeah.
Yeah. Now it's starting to kind of crumble back down again. And I think like Butcher kind of having the side effects of taking the B-24, I thought was actually it showed a lot about his character, but like that whole story they go through with when Mallory sits down, tells him the story, and kind of like just even the people that or someone that they trusted is now kind of has secrets, and kind of it seems like everything is kind of caving in, but they still have that camaraderie. I think though the most heartbreaking thing was when he had to Nymeria, Arya throwing the rock at Nymeria to Ryan.
Yeah,
because obviously it's something to protect him, and we know Butcher really does care about him, but it's hard to really convince Ryan otherwise. But then he has that moment too, and that's also another fucking layer that I thought was actually pretty well done, because then it adds doubt, which I don't think is going to happen. I think Ryan is a good kid, but maybe to Butcher that sticks in the back of his mind. It's like, this kid is capable of snapping as well.
He's capable of snapping, but also if we can get him on our side, he'd be a powerful ally, because he is able to stop Butcher there. And obviously Butcher doesn't have the powers in that moment, but I did appreciate the after effects of taking the Temp V. I think it adds to the realism of the show, where it's not this quick fix where you could take it and then you're fine.
It's not lazy.
Right, no, he's throwing up, he cuts Mallory's story off as soon as it's about to get good.
I know.
And then we get this flashback of what happens when they put superheroes in these military situations. Totally unequipped to handle it. They don't know the first thing about being soldiers. All they have is power and celebrity. So when you mix that with, order and structure, it's a recipe for disaster. And you see when shit gets popping off, they're killing the wrong people.
That's pretty brutal, man.
Yeah, it is brutal.
Like, obviously we see Soldier Boy, and for some reason I just thought he was going to be like an ally, and he's not that. Like we saw in last episode, all the terrible shit he's done and the way he interacts with Mallory, he's another piece of shit soup that obviously doesn't know the first thing about like actual military or how to be a effective leader, because you have the Fly going over the sight line, which basically gets them all fucking killed, and just the way they all crumble in that situation.
Yeah, for Soldier Boy, I thought he was going to exist in the modern day. A situation like Captain America being trapped in the ice, and somehow he comes back, and he's a foil for Homelander because he was the first Homelander. So there's obviously going to be some tension there, maybe some jealousy. But I'm not so convinced about this whole idea of they had a weapon that was able to kill him, because once again, nobody actually sees what happens. They just have the information that he was on the helicopter and then he was kidnapped. But if he's supposed to be as strong as Homelander, how did they subdue him? Which makes me believe that he is a traitor, and that this was a play by the East to counter the West. Obviously, this is the heart of the Cold War. It's all about beating the Reds, as Mallory says. So I wonder if it's going to be a situation like that, where maybe there's like a cloning program, or they were able to recreate his power and give it to other people.
Well, we've seen him take from Marvel DC before, so it could be maybe like a Winter Soldier type thing, brainwash or something along those lines. I don't get the sense that he's like an equal to Homelander, but maybe like the original Homelander in the sense that he was the first face of superheroes. But yeah, I'm very intrigued.
Can't fly.
Yes, I'm intrigued to see like what they find out and if there is something that can help level the playing field, because we've seen it time and time again, like, no matter what, the only way they can really rein in Homelander is through external pressures. Nobody can step up to this guy. And just the fear he elicits throughout the crew, it's like, even if the whole crew got together to work together, you don't have you're still taking Homelander.
Yeah, once again, Grace Mallory being such a shady character, she gets into the business of combating superheroes after what happens in Nicaragua. And she's manipulating all these people who have lost loved ones to superheroes. But as soon as she loses her family to a superhero, she's done. She can't continue this fight anymore. So I think it does speak to the fucked up nature of that character, that she wasn't willing to do what she pushed other people to do, and now she's taking this moral high ground with characters like Butcher. And I think she is making good points, definitely, that if you take out Homelander, it's the classic, you take out a snake's head, two come to replace it. The way that we're fighting this, it only ends in complete and utter disaster. You have a chance, I guess, at normalcy. You should take it for your sake. And I want to comment, the young Grace Mallory actress was very good in those flashback sequences, as well as young Stan Edgar, telling Black Noir, you still can't take off the mask because the country's not ready for that. So once again, he's the typical moderate politician. Yeah,
I think, like, especially with Mallory, though, it's the way she's like looked after Ryan and everything. I think, like, obviously there's some distrust between her and the boys at this moment, and she has all the shadiness in his past and probably has secrets that have secrets and all that. But, like, I don't know. For me watching, I think, like, she's someone that they can trust going forward. I don't think she's like any intended slights, like, by not indulging, even though MM does have the history with Soldier Boy.
Yeah, I definitely think she has more of a role to play. She's still going to be their Nick Fury. But, when she's telling them that they need to give it up, it's just, we're not going to listen to you because you're the ones who brought us in this game, and you manipulated us in a way where it's almost impossible for us to give up this life. Like Butcher says at the end, they're going to Russia, right? And that ties in with Frenchie's storyline where he has to help his ex-girlfriend who was robbed. And I thought, where is this all going? It feels like sometimes they give Frenchie these subplots that I'm not very interested in. Frenchie's life, I kind of just like him when he's one of the gang saying things in French and being nice to Kimiko. But that ends up tying together where, yeah, they're going to get the help of the Russian mafia to get themselves smuggled into into Russia. Good stuff. I can't wait to see Billy Butcher out in the snow. Also, the possibility of Russia having their own superheroes, because I imagine they're going to introduce that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the boys are going to Russia. That's a whole side episode. You can spend the whole time in there.
Right. Next episode is going to be filler. Then just getting into wacky adventures.
I wouldn't hate that at all.
No, I wouldn't.
Billy ends up in the gulag. No, but yeah, it is interesting to see what they had done with Soldier Boy. Like, is he cloned, or is he a double agent or something like that? Or they in some way used him to create their own army of super soldiers. Maybe they'll work together, Sometimes common enemy. I'm sure Russia doesn't really like Homelander too much, or America in general. Do you team up with Russia? That would be a cool twist.
Wait, who doesn't like America?
Russia.
Oh, right. No, I think you may have hit on something there. Maybe they get wind of, the plan is revealed, what was happening with Soldier Boy, and they realize, oh, this is the weapon. Soldier Boy is the weapon, or what they've done with Soldier Boy is the weapon. So, but I like Mallory's warning, stopping Homelander is not going to stop all of it. At the end of the day, the true guy you need to take down is Stan Edgar.
Yeah.
Because, you take out, that works it to his benefit. But I also think that's why he thinks he can control these new soups in the military. I don't think that's going to go over well. They very much show that power, it corrupts absolutely, even if it is temporarily.
If you have problems with, even with the V, like when A-Trainer's using it, the addiction that it caused, you see, go back to like Nazi Germany when Hitler was giving fucking meth to his soldiers.
Right. You juice up all your soldiers, and then all of a sudden it's, they said that it was still in R&D. Maybe there's something they didn't catch, and you end up killing, 20% of your army or some shit like that,
And just obviously there's already casualty to war. Imagine the casualty if every soldier was a super soldier.
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound great. No. I don't think that's a recipe for success.
You think about the most powerful institutions in America, you think of military and pharmaceuticals.
Right.
If you're on top of both of those fields, you are the most powerful person in the world.
Well, that's why it's funny, because he talks about wanting to bring down superhero culture. But since superhero culture doesn't exist in our world, the two most evil companies would be military and pharmaceuticals. It's all about profits. How much can we gouge people for profits? So, yeah, he's saying, he's taking this moral stance against superheroism, and he just wants to do the next worst thing in line. So that's why I think it's funny. There's no way he's going to be able to get rid of these superheroes and maintain power at Vought. At least I think. He's desperately going to try. And I think now that he has Newman, obviously his connect in Congress, that's going to be a very powerful ally for him. But I think they are setting him up to be such a clever adversary for not only just Homelander, but for the boys. So he out of these 3 episodes, he was my standout. Every scene he was in, I couldn't take my eyes off of him, and I couldn't wait for what he was going to say next. Even the way he delivers the line to the senator, I have a few strings I can still pull in Congress. So confident, so sly, so cool. A real standout, like I said.
Yeah, and it's also, he is at the end of the day, Vought right now, their main product is their superheroes, and to have someone like Homelander, not affecting their numbers and actually growing because of him showing more and more of his true colors. I mean, I wonder if it's just going to be like a triangle. You have a love triangle, maybe just like a hate triangle, where the boys want to take down Vought and Homelander and Edgar are at odds, and they're both at odds with the boys, where it's like, if the boys take out Vought, then Homelander's absolute power. Then if you take out Homelander, well, Vought still has everything in place to kind of, like you said, keep it flowing. Next person up.
Right, and the show has always been more complicated than good guys and bad guys, but it was easier to draw those lines in Season 1. And then it gets more complex in Season 2, and now in Season 3, there are so many different characters with loyalties to each other and different motivations that are going to be conflicting. So this season is just gearing up to be an absolute mess. And that could be difficult from a writing standpoint, but I'm very confident in the writers of this show at this point that they're going to leave us off Season 3, because obviously they're going to continue this show I think it's in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gearing up to be one of the strongest seasons. And to keep that
these first 3 episodes are great.
I know. And like, obviously we have all of them, but we're not gonna, I think I do enjoy the weekly, so like the discussion and speculation. And obviously if we were reviewing episode 4, when we finish the season, that just leaves no fun to like speculate and things like that. So I think going weekly is just going to be a much more fun viewing experience, make it last longer, and kind of not just finish it and kind of move on and just wait for next season. Kind of extend it out a little. And I think that's like what's fun with a show like this too, is just the week to week. Even though I like the first 3 and then week to week after that. That's kind of like a cool model. I feel it's like the best of both worlds between the binge and the weekly.
And the relationship between Huey and Butcher has come such a long way. Even when Huey is on his side and he agrees with him, Butcher throws up on him. So even when it feels like they're equals, you still see how Butcher is the one holding the reins of that relationship, because he just turns to him and pukes all over him. Huey's always going to be the number 2, but more of a, like I said, they're more in line with their beliefs at this point, because Huey's the notion of being able to reform an institution from the inside. They set up the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs. He thinks everything's going so well, and he realizes it was basically all bullshit. So now he's so dug into this idea of having to take it out Butcher's way, having to take out Vought Butcher's way, and that can be very, very dangerous. We'll see where they end up, the two of those characters, by the end of this season. Butcher, how far is he willing to go? And then maybe Huey ends up in a place where he's more reminiscent of a season 1 Butcher, and Butcher's just unrecognizable.
Yeah, I don't think Huey would ever go full Butcher. He has just too much. He still has like an innocence about him, even with him being like thinking.
But man, wasn't he cold to Starlight on the phone conversation? Not even like, honey, stick it out, I love you, be careful. It was, that's what you have to do. Sorry.
Yeah.
There wasn't any warmth. There wasn't any concern. It's just, this is the fight that we're in. We're soldiers. We're not lovers in this conversation. That to me felt cold.
Yeah. But I think he still has enough, I think, empathy and stuff within him to be like, that's just the situation they're in, and this is what they got to do at this point. But it's, you think, not maybe
he'll approach that line and maybe take a few steps back?
I think he's self-aware enough. Where Butcher, like, I think he's grown. I think Huey's starting point is one of kindness, a little innocence, where he's maybe going up towards like that Butcher, where Butcher started off as more cold and ruthless, and he's coming down towards the middle as well. So maybe they'll kind of meet in the same. It's perfectly balanced.
I wonder if any more of these characters are going to take the Temp V. That'll be fun to see. Some of the other boys with superpowers.
I wonder like how they decide. Like, is it just random, depending on your genetics, or is like this is the speed formula, this is the superpower formula?
Yeah, I wonder if it is just kind of a one-size-fits-all super strength, everyone turns into Homelander. Or Black Noir, essentially, or Soldier Boy, because it looks like Soldier Boy's kind of just got the super strength, but nothing really else.
But he had the lasers.
Yeah, Billy did have the lasers, right? So it looks like it is a Superman formula. Like you temporarily become Homelander or Superman. So that'd be interesting to see all the boys just souped up. And that'd be also, they can get creative with it as well if the powers do change there.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the best example of, them, the normal characters using superpowers was when Butcher had the baby with the laser eye.
Yeah.
That shit was so funny. But yeah, I'm excited to see where episode 4 goes, man. The boys going to Russia, getting more into this conspiracy with Soldier Boy. What the hell is happening over there? There's so many threads that they need to tie up. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for the rest of season 3. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Like we said, we'll be back next week for episode 4. Can't wait to get into that. For Aaron, I am Beau. See you later.
Damn, we were making some good points in that video. Hey guys, Aaron and Nerd Suit Monkey here. Before we end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. What can I say about you guys that I haven't already said about myself? You are the most important part of the channel and the main reason we keep going strong. Like Beau says, you keep the lights on in the fridge so the fridge is full. Or something like that. So, from everyone here at Nerd Soup, I'd like to thank you guys for your continued support. If you're interested in joining the ranks of our patron supporters, head over to patreon.com/nerdsoup and check out the rewards we offer to our patrons. We recently dropped some new stickers for you guys to check out, or you could choose a tier that will allow you to select a movie, show, or video game for us to review. We've got a full slate of fan-suggested reviews coming your way, and we're really excited about the chance to review some of those movies and shows. We've also got t-shirts, mugs, behind-the-scenes videos showing how we bring our videos to life. And once again, thank you to all our Patreon pledgers who have been supporting us throughout the years. Without you, we wouldn't be able to convert all your pledges into cryptocurrency, so thank you from my future self for making us rich.